Good afternoon, everyone. I think I know everyone. I just think for the sake of the mic, I'll just say who I am. I'm David Allfrey, Major Projects Manager at Norfolk County Council. I have a colleague with me, Jeremy Wiggin, Travel Development Team Manager is his day job. I'll explain why he's here as I go through the presentation. So I'll just start that off. Okay, so we'll flow through. Basically, you're obviously all aware John Barnard, who was the previous Transport for Norwich manager, has left. He's gone to Suffolk. Still not forgiving him. I was hoping to have a replacement for John in place before he left. But unfortunately, that's been overtaken by a review of our department structure. I'm sure you'll all appreciate the pressures that local government are under with budgets. So we're in another review of the department structure. So I've been caught up in that. What I would say, just to reassure you, is there is still a NATS City Agency Manager role within that structure. So there will be someone in that post. I'm just caught up in a process, and I'm sure some of you will appreciate just how much fun that is. So in the interim, and I would say we're looking to appoint someone early next year. So I'm hoping I'll have someone in post January, and I'll update you as and when that gets sorted. But obviously we're in an interim period. I'm getting a bit more involved than I would have been in the past. But I've broken down the role so that Jeremy is assisting with the sort of Transport for Norwich General and the city agency sort of management stuff. So Jeremy's allowing himself around a day a week on average. So far I've got other people doing something similar in terms of managing the overall programme of works and the project delivery as well. So the role has been sort of split across a range of people. In general, what I'd say is if you've got any queries, come to me and we'll deal with those. The point I'd stress on the bullet points there is business as usual. So we are still cracking on. This doesn't mean everything stops just because John's not about. Also, just to reassure you all, the Christmas embargo is going ahead as planned. So all the roadworks should be clear approximately by the middle of the month. Certainly our works. So there may be. I know there's always a risk of emergency works by utility companies and the like, which is outside of our control, but that's where we are. There are some variable message signs that will be used coming up to inform drivers in particular about how they may want to think about stopping at the park and ride rather than trying to get to some of the car parks. And we can vary the messaging around those. So we'll use those. The bid has agreed to put some funding into that, as have Connect, the City Council and the county. So that's in train. There will be lots of messaging as well about how to find information about car park and access and so on. So that's all in process. So that's a bit of an update on Transport for Norwich management and what's coming up. Part of the reason I'm here as well. That's gone in the right place, yes. So NDR progress. Funny enough, I was talking to someone earlier about progress, and I basically said if you'd have given me the position we're in now at the start of the year, I'd have snapped your arm off. Actually, it's been a very good year in terms of delivery so far. The top right photo on there is the new A1067 junction, already open to traffic, so that's operating already. The next junction along Fircover Road is also constructed and being used by traffic, so that gives you some feel for lots of those junctions are already coming together. The bottom photo there is Buxton Road Bridge. The reason I've put that there, and I've mentioned bridge structures on here, is we are well advanced on nearly all the bridge structures. We're ahead of programme on nearly all of them. Buxton Road in particular, later this month, and that photo is slightly out of date, later this month we're looking to put the beams on that bridge. So that's quite a big milestone for us. Potentially with 2 other bridges with beams on before the Christmas period as well, so that gives you some feel for the pace that things are going at. Earthworks, we've topped over 1 million cubic metres of bulk earthworks in this period. The season, the weather's just turned on us really in the last week, so the season in terms of bulk earthworks is now winding down. But we're well ahead, so the actual window for the bulk earthworks completion next year is quite good. We're also on with pavement construction, so obviously you can see the junction that's on there that's complete. Sections of the dual carriageway itself, the base construction of the road is going ahead at pace. So that's all the good news. Utility diversions, we've got 80. We're about halfway through them. That's an area for us to keep an eye on because some of the utility companies are a bit hit and miss at the minute. So that's where we are. So we still are aiming for December 17th for the road to be open. That's our target that we've had for some time. The year we've had so far is putting us in a good place to hopefully achieve that. The winter weather coming up is the key risk for us now. We'll see where we are in the spring really in terms of how much we've managed to get done during that winter. I mean, we scale things back anyway. You obviously make a bit of an allowance for winter, but that's the key one for us that will tell us whether or not December is still doable. The photos there, the top right is Rackheath Bridge. I'm sorry the photos aren't massive, but hopefully that stands out. Rackheath is the critical path item. That's the bridge that lifts over the rail line. That's where we've had some fun with Network Rail, getting approvals, changing to night working to get the piling work done. That's complete. That was we put 2 rigs on there to try and win time back on program so that we can get that done. That's still a challenge for us on the overall program. If we get ahead on that one, then the Cromer Road A140 junction, which is the bottom photo there, that becomes then the critical path item. You can see that in construction there. The A140 is the bottom of those roads. The Holt Road is the one that sort of stretches across the top of that photo. And as I mentioned, utility diversions, particularly actually around that A140 junction, are key at the minute. We've got some gas diversions that are putting us under pressure there. Having said that, through next year, we are currently now looking at how we phase the opening of sections of the road. So we may be able to open sections rather than the whole thing opening at once. So as and when sections become available, we'll see what we can do to open them. But we need to weigh up what impact that has on the network generally. So that's NDR. I'm happy to we'll come back to any questions on that. In the city, so transport from Norwich more general and delivery. I quite like these photos. Westlegate before and after, which is, it's quite a change, quite a positive change, I think. Progress has been pretty good. We've obviously shut the works down now, so I'm not going to dwell too much on haven't we done well on those first 2 phases, but it's quite a good result, quite a good end product so far. Phase 3 is the completion of the All Saints Green section. We're in John Lewis, so that's everyone's seen where that is and what the works consist of. We plan to be back early in the new year. I think the suggestion I've had so far is the 2nd week in January, which gets us reasonably clear of the January sale window. And I hope we're looking at the programme at the minute to see whether or not we can be as clear as we can be by the Easter period as well, so that we minimise the impact when we get into that window. So that's the plan there. Again, I'll just sort of whiz through that. So that's probably our sort of key larger projects sort of immediately coming after the embargo is cleared in the new year. So what's in the programme for next year? I suppose I'll look at the right-hand column first. What we've been doing is just reviewing what we've got in the programme, and the reason we've done that is actually we're listening to the concerns we've heard, particularly from the business community, and Norwich Bid have been sort of quite clear in some of the concerns that have been raised about the ongoing impact to businesses and traffic across this, and particularly in the city centre and on the inner ring road. So we've had a look at the programme for next year, and actually, so if I jump to the column on the left, you can see, and I've highlighted, and hopefully it shows the slightly bolder 3 schemes on there are the only ones that are either in the city centre or touch the inner ring road. The other schemes that we've got in next year's programme are further out. That's not to say they won't have an impact on traffic in the coming in and out of the city, but more generally, it's spreading the load a bit to a wider envelope. So we hope, and what we're looking at the minute is just looking at the timing of those projects to try and not have everything happening in one place or another. So we spread the load across the city. And the reason for looking at the programme is we're just also assessing the utility company planned works as well to try and see where they're operating. We think in terms of planned works, they're relatively light. We're not aware of anything too much at this point in time. So hopefully the impact on the city through next year is going to be less than we've seen for the last few years. So overall, I think that's our driver at the minute. Yes, City Cycle Ambition Grant. So it's a funding for the DFT funding for the cycle ambition projects that we've got. So the city has cycle ambition or city cycle ambition status. So that's funding from DFT. Yeah, so what we're also doing through next year, and this is part of the review as well, is we are, and we've talked about this before, hopefully, the surveys on the inner ring road, just to carry those out to assess, the impact of what we've done so far. So we sort of hopefully, and that's part of the reason why we want to try and clear the works outside John Lewis here, so that we can get a sort of a window of time where generally things are fairly neutral in terms of traffic movements. So those surveys will be carried out in the spring, and then modelling work in the summer just to assess the impacts of those. And some of the projects we are therefore reviewing, and Prince of Wales Road is one of those. We are looking at the scope and, in a sense, the scale of that project, and do we go for a whole solution, or can we phase it, or indeed is it the right thing to do at this time, full stop anyway. And I think there's a bit of further work to do in terms of engagement, consultation and feedback. So we're kind of just slowing it down at the minute, just taking a bit of a breather on that one. Doesn't mean it's stopping, doesn't mean it's going away, but I think it's right for us to just get out there and ask people a few more questions about what their thoughts are about what we should and shouldn't be doing. Bus operators as well, and sort of in terms of how they see the benefits for them and what the impacts are for them. But the business community will be a key to that as well. It does look at accessibility and its access to car parks as well, and obviously we've got the new Rose Lane car park, so it's how do people get to that as well. So I think it's the right thing for us to do, just to sort of take a bit of a, in a sense, a stock take of all things that we're doing, with a mind to just trying to reduce the impact across the city over the next year. So that's really where we're at. Allied to that, one of the areas we've, again, I know we've talked about this before, is actually on the communications front, about people understanding where we're going with this, what's actually in the plan. So with the review of NATS coming forwards, and the sort of just looking at the programme of things we're doing, just taking a bit of time just to try and get some of those messages across so people actually understand more about what we're doing, how it all hangs together. And Charlotte Strata, who looks after the comms for the Transport for Norwich programme, will be doing more work to get those messages across. The key for me really is actually engaging with key stakeholders as well on that, so that there's an opportunity to get a rounded message. And also, I think what I'd like to move towards is we're all working together, and actually there's opportunities for the business sector to maybe be the people who are responding to some of the commentary that we get on some of the projects we're doing. So I think some work between us on that would be really, really helpful. So that's where we are. The last slide is just, I just touched on the NATS review, and you've seen this this one before. I think we just put that on the screen briefly before. I'm not planning on going through it, but it just gives you a feel for the timescales on the local plan review that's going on, and how the NATS update will fit around that. But it's not a quick process, but there is clearly there's engagement in terms of what we're planning. Some of this is really just looking back to what we developed back in 2008-2009 for the sort of Transport for Norwich proposals that were adopted. Are they still sound, or do we need to rethink some of them? So bus rapid transit, for example, the technology, transport technology has moved on massively since 2008, 2009, and really it's are those proposals that we previously made still fit for purpose, or do they need a bit of an update in terms of the technology that is either here now or that is accelerating at such a pace that what will it look like in 5 years, and where are the opportunities for us to jump on that? So that's part of that overall sort of work that needs to go on through next year, and there will be engagement opportunities with key stakeholders across the city as well. That, in a very brief presentation, is it. Okay. If that's okay. I don't know if there's any questions that have come in. I do apologise, I should say, have been completed.
That's fine. That's a very clear answer.
Yeah, the only thing I would say on that is obviously when we close All Saints Green to deliver the works there, and obviously that becomes a permanent closure, we will need to look at the signal operation at Finkelgate, because obviously it changes the way traffic flows through there, so there will be a revisit of the signal timing, but it's not really a works on the ground thing that people would see, but there will be a sort of a reset, if you like, in terms of how those signals operate. But they've been designed obviously with that in mind. Okay. I think that's, in a sense, that's part of the stock take that we're doing. So the surveys on the inner ring road, that's key to that really, in terms of looking at where those problem locations are. We can, hence the reason for the question, I guess, is we know where they are. The surveys will help inform that. We will look at doing some modelling to see whether there are things we can do to try and alleviate some of those problems. I think the stock take is really around, do we spend, we've got quite a sizable budget at the minute allocated to Prince of Wales Road, for example, and it's a question of, is that right? But we know we've possibly got problems elsewhere on the inner ring road. I would say, however, obviously from the County Council's perspective, we just got to make sure that the funding that we've got from the Local Growth Fund, which is via the LEP, that we get all the right approvals for any changes to that programme of work.